As Jesus brings his teaching to a close, he offers an image that settles slowly rather than landing all at once. Two houses are built. Two builders make their choices, and eventually the same storm reaches them both. Jesus does not describe reckless people versus careful ones, or faithful people versus faithless ones. He describes people who have heard the same words and responded in different ways, shaping their lives around what felt solid at the time. One builder takes the slower path, letting the foundation be formed carefully and deliberately, even when it requires patience and attention. The other builds more quickly, choosing what is easier to establish in the moment. When the storm comes, the difference is not in effort or intention, but in what has been holding the weight all along. The house built on rock remains, not because the builder avoided difficulty, but because the foundation was able to carry it. The house built on sand collapses, not because the builder failed morally, but because what it rested on could not withstand pressure. Throughout this final chapter, Jesus has been speaking about judgment, discernment, prayer, and faithfulness, not as isolated teachings, but as parts of a life shaped by trust rather than comparison or harshness. Again and again, he invites his listeners away from condemnation, toward themselves and toward others, and into a way of life that is steady, grounded, and resilient. The storm does not test their sincerity. It reveals their foundation. Reflection. Pressure has a way of revealing what surfaces inside when things don't unfold the way you expected, especially in moments that feel small enough to dismiss, but linger long enough to affect how you move through the rest of the day. A plan slips, a reaction surprises you, or a conversation doesn't land the way you rehearsed it. And before there's time to reflect, something tightens inwardly, carrying a familiar message that says you should have handled it better, known more, or been further along by now. These are not dramatic failures. They are quiet moments, easily overlooked, where the inner ground either steadies you or turns against you. Jesus' words about foundations speak into this private terrain, the kind of internal weather that arrives when expectations collapse or outcomes disappoint, and you're left alone with how you interpret what just happened. Some inner foundations respond to that pressure by becoming rigid and demanding, insisting on immediate answers, assigning fault quickly, and pushing for correction before there has been space to understand what was actually needed in the moment. In those spaces, growth feels risky, and mistakes carry weight far beyond what they deserve. Other foundations respond differently, allowing a pause that makes room for clarity instead of judgment, curiosity instead of accusation, and patience instead of urgency. In those moments, learning feels possible without the sting of shame, and the heart stays present rather than bracing or withdrawing. This is what it looks like when the ground beneath you can carry weight without collapsing. Not because things go smoothly, but because what supports you does not turn harsh when they don't. Over time, this changes how storms are experienced. Pressure still arrives, but it no longer decides your worth or defines your identity, and disappointment becomes something you move through rather than something that knocks you off balance. And slowly, often without noticing the moment it happens, you find yourself building a life that can remain standing, not because it is flawless or perfectly constructed, but because it is being held with care.